focus session hosted by the ECB on the T2S consolidation project. So today we have a big program ahead of us. It's a 3-hour session. We have an immense, huge interest in the event. So we are live streaming as well. You will be able to find the live streaming link in the chat. It will be posted there in a minute. So you can also follow the whole event via the live stream, especially as we will be reaching above the capacity of WebEx of participants for today's session. My name is Elin. I'm part of the backstage team. So we will be supporting you at this event. You can contact us either in the chat or via email if you're watching the live streaming. So both options are available. The live streaming link has just been posted for you in the chat. So we strongly encourage some of you to move into the live stream to ensure that the capacity of this event is as good as possible. There's a few practical information on top of this, but apart from that, we have, as you can see, a big heavy program ahead of us. The live stream, as mentioned before, we encourage you to use that as much as possible. You will all be muted, so there's no big difference if you're watching the WebEx or the live streaming. You cannot speak in either of the two formats, so to speak. You can ask questions no matter where you're watching and following us. If you're in the WebEx, you can send the questions via the chat. Or if you are in the live stream, you can email us at mip.event@ecb.europa.eu. The email is on the slide here, so we'll just leave it there for a second. We will also post that one in the chat, so you have it. Again, this is it from my side, and I will hand over to Dimitri Patin, who will do the welcome and status updates on the project. So thank you from my side.
Hi, thank you, Eileen. I hope you can all hear me well. Well, good morning and a warm welcome to all of you to this second virtual focus sessions. Our previous session was a bit more than 9 months ago. It was in September last year. And if we were to keep the same pace, it means that we would have one more focus session probably around March next year, but that the following one will be after our go-live date. Of course, we will increase the frequency of these focus events, but the message I want to pass to you today is that we should not think or discuss the T2S consolidation, the T2S consolidation in terms of it's coming. It is actually there. The T2S consolidation is there already now. After summer, you will start the connectivity testing, so connecting your legacy systems with the central platform. That is supposed to start as from just right after the summer, so in September. And later this year, so we do no longer refer to next year, it's this year. You will start as from December doing the function testing, so testing the functional integration between your platform and the central platform. And this is probably explaining the reason why Eileen was referring to a huge interest in today's focus session. The team told me that we were at around 200,000 people wishing to attend. And again, with the risk of repeating what Eileen was mentioning, for those who would be facing difficulties, there is also a live stream, and the link to it was shared in the chat, and you can see it now on the screen. So the objective for today's session is, of course, to provide you with an update on what happened the last month, but probably more important is to give you the forward-looking perspective, to walk you through the future milestones and discuss with you the detailed organization of the work in the coming month. Well, before walking you through the agenda, let me remind you that 2022 will be a turning point in terms of the global adoption of ISO 20022. It's not only that we will migrate with the T2 platform, it will also mark the start of the coexistence period for cross-border payments. Of course, there will be the migration of Euro 1 as well. All of those 3 points, so our migration, the coexistence, and the migration of Euro 1 are aligned and taking place in November next year. But beyond that, other non-Euro central banks are also organizing their migration to ISO 20022, starting with the Bank of England, if I'm not wrong, in summer next year. So from the outset, from our perspective, we wanted to migrate in what we call the fully fledged mode, because we believe this is the best way to reap the benefits of the richness of the new standards. And we wanted to do that as from the start of the coexistence period for cross-border payments. And to give you some insights, we expect this choice to be reconfirmed by the MIB, so the Market Infrastructure Board. In the coming weeks, we have a meeting end of June, and this choice of the fully fledged is expected to be reconfirmed, of course, at that point in time. We are obviously closely monitoring what's happening on the side of the cross-border payments, but all the information we gather is positive and going the right direction. Focusing more on our T2 T2S consolidation, we have entered now into the central bank testing, which is the last step before opening for user testing. And that central bank testing is organized in, I would say, 3 main building blocks. The first one is the connectivity of the central banks to the central platform. This is behind us. It took place in the course of May. As we speak, we have entered into the second stage, which is the configuration of reference data in the central reference data management tool, so the CRDM. This started already 2 weeks ago and is going to last until the end of the month. And the last step, which is actually the core of the central bank testing, will be the testing of the new central liquidity management and the FTGS starting from the 5th of July. So this is all on track. All the key components of the T2 T2S consolidation have been developed, are deployed, and are being tested now from the central bank perspective. Moving on to the market readiness, and that's the slides that you see here. We have the past, we have the near future, and we have next year. So from the past, I will not come back to last year, but earlier this year, we have achieved 2 milestones, the IAD7 marking the start of testing for your internal applications. We have also reached NSP3, which is the preparatory work for the selection of your network service provider. And those 2 milestones have been reached in the course of towards the end of Q1 this year. Very soon we will reach the 2 other milestones, IAD6. But don't ask me why IAD6 is coming after IAD7. It has to do with the fact that development is taking place before testing, and that we also see an overlap potentially between the development and the testing. That's why. But actually, the end of the development on your side is, from the milestone perspective, expected by the end of June, so very soon. And as well, we also expect that your procurement process for the network service provider for connectivity services will be completed by the end of the month. In the course of August, towards the end of August, we expect the testing on your side to be completed, and we expect as well to have the start of your connection to the T2 T2S consolidated platform by September. So the testing is supposed to start in September. We have other milestones related to it's called IST1 and IST2, which has to do with your training, internal training. Of course, the connectivity is supposed to take place between the 1st of September and the end of November. And this is because the start, the user testing is planned to start early December. Moving on to next year, of course, next year will be devoted mostly to the user testing, starting from December this year until the end of September next year. But we will also obviously be talking about production. We will talk about connectivity to the production system. So it's called NCOP1 and NCOP2, taking place between May and July next year. We will also discuss and cover the pre-migration, that's the milestones MIG1 and MIG2 between August and October. And we also have a few other milestones called OPA and CLA, referring to the operational procedures and any contractual or legal obligation on your side. We're thinking of terms of reference potentially and things like that. And obviously, the user testing will be finished by the end of September, because that's from that point in time we will really be in the starting blocks for the production for the go live date in November. Obviously, we will have more occasions to discuss these milestones. And by the way, everything I said right now, it can also be found, and probably even with more details, on the website. So moving on now to the agenda of the day, we will start with some highlights from Sylvain de Beaumont. Will provide us insights on the future target guidelines. Thereafter, we will have a chapter on connectivity. We will have Marco Pieroni from the Banca d'Italia providing the latest news on the concession contract, and with a focus on the contractual obligations under the concession contract. And he will also be happy to take any questions you may have. We will also give the floor to our two network service providers. So we will have Andrea representing SIA-Colt to give us an update on their activities and their service offering. And we will also hear Isabelle from Swift doing the same. Thereafter, we have Jean-Pierre De Haag covering the testing and migration. He will give us some more details on the organization of the work for testing and migration. And last but not least, we will have Maite providing us with an update on the market readiness. And without emptying what she will bringing us information, what I can share already is that the result of the last reporting round is highlighting a very good level of preparedness from the market participants. But I will leave the rest for Maite to give us some updates on that. And thereafter, we will have a panel. Maite, we will be moderating a panel where market participants will share with us how they prepare, the challenge that they may be facing, and how they organize to overcome those challenges. Just as a reminder, the housekeeping rules, probably the most important one is if you are connected via the WebEx, you can of course raise your questions via the chat, as Elaine was mentioning. If you are following from the live stream, you can drop an email. I believe this is the next slide. You can drop an email, and there is a team backstage which will process those emails and bring the questions to the speakers. So I believe with this introduction, it is now time to move on to substance. And I wish you a fruitful event. And Elina, it's probably good that I give you the floor to introduce Sylvain. Thank you.
Thank you, Dimitri. Thanks for opening this. As you said, it's a big event ahead of us. So we will move straight into the second item on the agenda, which is the introduction by Sylvain to the future target guidelines. So Sylvain, if you're here, I will hand over to you.
Thank you, Eileen, and good morning, everyone. So indeed, another pleasure to provide you with some first insight into the future target guideline, which will replace the current TARGET2 guideline in November 22, when we move to the consolidated platform. Just to say that last month, there was a much longer and much more detailed presentation that was made to a limited number of volunteering participants that also received the draft of the new guideline and that were offered the possibility to comment on it. Today, we are only going to use a subset of these slides, and we will only present the most important aspect of the future guideline. I'd like to repeat, if you do not know it already, that the future guideline, why is it important and why do we present it today? It's because it will serve as a basis for all the participation agreements or contracts that will be established between target participants and the central bank. So if we could move to the next slide, please. You can go through all the animation. Sorry, I forgot to. Yeah, that should be, thank you. So first of all, let's see where we are coming from and how the current TARGET2 guideline look like. So the structure of the current guideline, you can see here on the screen, it's quite complex. And actually its complexity has even increased over the years whenever there was new services added to the perimeter of TARGET2. So we have on top of this, that's the dark blue part, the core of the guideline that sets the rules to be applied at Eurosystem level and that commits the central bank. We then have one annex on governance, and that's the annex that explains the 3 levels of governance. And then a number of annexes you see, that's the remaining blocks that set out the harmonized conditions which are applicable to the participants. In Annex 2, you find the harmonized condition for PM accounts. In 2A, you find those for T2S DCAs. In 2B, those for the TIPS DCA. Then we have 2 other annexes, 3 and 3A, which are respectively for the provision of intraday credit and the provision of autocall. Then we have Annex 4 and 4A, which are specific to ancillary system. And the very last one, Annex 5, that is dedicated to the internet-based participation. So you see a long list of annexes. And on top of these 9 annexes, we have a number, I should say even a high number of technical appendices, which are either completely identical. I think if we take the technical appendices on the compensation scheme or the templates for the capacity and country opinion, they are exactly the same, but they are present more than once. Or we have appendices that cover more or less the same topic. They are not fully identical, but they are covering the same aspects. That's the case for the operational schedule and the fee schedule. What I like to say is that if we were to get closer with a kind of magnifying glass in these different boxes, in particular the harmonized condition for the PM account, harmonized condition for the T2S DCA or the TIPS DCA, we would find that there are a lot of provisions, a lot of articles that are either exactly the same or that are roughly equivalent. So a lot of repetitions. If we take, for instance, that each of these annexes has its own set of definitions. So that means that the same term might be used and might be defined up to 9 times in the current guideline. We also have the access criteria, which are systematically repeated throughout the different annexes. The liability regime are also equivalent. There are plenty of clauses, some technical clauses like evidence, right of pledge, data protection, etc., that are systematically repeated throughout these different annexes. So you see that the construction of the current guideline makes it a long document with a lot of repetition, sometimes even slight, I have to confess, slight incoherences, particularly with the repetition of the definitions that we have. So it's a definition, it's a document that is large and somehow uneasy to maintain. So that's why all these different drawbacks, we try to address them in the future guideline. And now, Eileen, I would suggest that we move to the next slide. So for the new guideline, we wanted to have a streamlined structure, which is shorter and avoids this repetition. We also wanted to better reflect the concept and the modularity of the target services. So we still have on top, in the dark blue part, somehow the core of the guideline that commits the national central bank, like today. And then we have one large single annex, so this Annex 1, with the harmonized conditions. And it contains in one single annex all the harmonized conditions for all the types of participants and for all the types of accounts. This big Annex 1 is structured in 7 parts. You have in part 1 the provisions that are common to all types of accounts. I come back to that in just 1 minute. It's by far, this part 1, the general provision, is by far the largest part of the annex on the harmonized condition. In part 2, you would find the additional conditions applying on top of the general provisions, specifically for the MCA holders. This part 2 also includes the conditions which are applicable to intraday credit, because you know intraday credit is only provided from the NCA. So in the current guideline, there is a separate annex for intraday credit. Now we made it together with the conditions for the MCA. It's much more logical. In part 3, we have the additional conditions which are specific to the ATGS DCA. Part 4, we will have those for the T2S DCA and the autocall, because the autocall is only provided from T2S DCA. It's also a difference with the current guideline, for which today we have a separate annex for the autocall. Part 5, that's for the TIPS accounts. The last 2 parts, 6 and 7, they relate to the ancillary system procedures, depending as to whether they are provided from the ATGS block or from TIPS. Besides this large annex on the harmonized condition, we have one single set of definition. So you can forget about going to one of the different parts to look at definitions that might differ from one service to the other. There is now one single set of definition, and we also have one single set of technical appendices. They are the same for all the different services and all the different type of account. So yeah, indeed, moving to the next slide, thank you. One of the major change that we are implementing with this future guideline resides in this part 1 of the harmonized condition, where we have where we put together all the articles, all the provisions that apply to all the different type of accounts. If we were to make a kind of mathematical comparison, for those that still remember their math course from school, it's a bit as if we have factorized all these different elements in one single place. So all the provisions that are listed here access criteria, billing, acceptance of orders, liability regime, confidentiality, etc. We only define them once for all, and they are applicable to all different accounts. So this is really a great simplification step. So that's really what is simplifying quite considerably the structure of the guideline, and also ultimately the contracts that you will have with your national central banks. These contracts will be less repetitive than they might be today, and they will also be short. We can then move to the next slide, because precisely I'm sorry that with the PDF something went wrong with the appearance and the display, but we can correct that in the version that we publish perhaps. So what is the logic behind this modularity? So how will it work? Here on that slide, we do not mean to be exhaustive, in terms of the different account setup that might exist, but it's just provided for the sake of the example. So if I am, so that's the first example on the left. If I'm a small bank and I'm only interested in having an MCA and nothing more, well, my contract will be based, or the conditions which apply to me are those in part 1, because the part 1, you understood, they are applicable to everyone. And then on top of that, the part specific to the MCA. If I'm a bank with a slightly more sophisticated setup, let's take the third example. I have an MCA, an TGS DCA, and a TIPS DCA. What will apply to me? Well, part 1, it's for everyone. Part 2, because it's specific to the MCA. Part 3, because it's specific to the TGS DCA. And the part 5 for my TIPS DCA. So that's the way the modularity of the target services is also greatly helping to establish the contract, or to identify which are the clauses that apply to the participant depending on their account set. And in the next and last slide, so that's the timing. So where are we and where are the next steps? So we have, as I said at the beginning, collected the views and the comments of some market participants. That was last month. So now we are reviewing their input. We are also preparing some of the technical appendices that were still missing. And we shall consult the policy committee and the legal committee of the Eurosystem, I would say, starting from this summer. The guideline will in principle be submitted to the ECB decision-making bodies, in particular the Governing Council, by the end of the year. Afterwards, the guideline, you know how it is implemented. It needs to be translated. Then it is implemented by the national central banks in their different national laws. So that's why we expect that the national central banks will start approaching their future participant from Q2 2022, but this date will be further specified by each individual central bank. But roughly, that's the time by which your central bank would be approaching you in view of establishing your contract for your participation in the future system. So this is it for the presentation. I don't know, do we have time for question, Eileen, or we need to move to the next presentation?
You are exactly on time, Sylvain. So if we move to the next presentation, we won't break the time from the beginning. So let's do that. We do have questions coming in all formats, but maybe at the end of the event today, we can try to pick up some of them and see what we have time for. So okay. Thank you very much, Sylvain. And I just want everyone then to, so you all know the slides will be uploaded on the web page of the event. They will be uploading as we speak today, and we will be fixing then, as Sylvain said, this particular slide. So thank you for this. And we are ready to move on to the next part of today's session. So as mentioned by Dimitri at the beginning, we have a session on the connectivity to the target services. This part will consist of 3 presentations straight after each other. So first we will have Marco Prioni from Banca d'Italia, then we will have Andrea Pazio-Colla from SIA-Colt, and finally it will be Isabelle Aubier from Swift. So we will just do these 3 presentations straight after each other. Marco, if you are there, I will give the floor to you for the first 15 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eileen. And okay, we can start with this wide audience of today. Speaking on SMIG connectivity framework, in particular, would you like to introduce this document called the General Terms of Reference? But maybe before to start, we just want to remember what is SMIG, is the Eurosystem Market Infrastructure Gateway. That is an harmonized interface aiming to make easier for the participant to access and use the Eurosystem services for a single entry point. Through a selection process that was managed by Banca Italia on behalf of the Eurosystem, has been granted the concession to SIA-Colt and Swift that we are going to provide the connectivity for all the target services. Particularly, they need to provide, other than the network connectivity, they have to also to provide the messaging services in U2A, A2A mode, the security services, the operational services, also the incident management. Such a service will be provided based on a catalog that sometimes is called also service description that define on top of that the maximum price for each items. After the conclusion of the awarding process that actually finished quite now some months ago, I mean 2019 actually, we are now in the implementation phase. This big solution has been drawn in the different plan. Yeah, you can stick it here in this slide. Thanks, Eileen. And in the previous one, thanks. And the SMIG solution will be rolled out in 4 steps. We will start in November 2021 for TIPS, then in June 2022 for T2S, of course, in November 2022 for the new consolidation system, and finally in November 2023 for ACMS. During this phase, the main actors remain the same, and of course is the 2 network providers that are owning the concession, and the direct connected actors, that means the market, the participants that are directly connected to the target service, and the Eurosystem with the Banca Italia acting as mandated agent. Over the past few months, we have received many questions or clarification of various kinds related to the implementation of the concession agreement. The contract is quite complex. The answers to this question has been collected in a question and answer document that is available on both the ECB website and Banca Italia website. Now, this document reaches quite relatively big dimension and complexity, moreover, because some of the questions are really also of legal nature, not mainly on technical nature. It's a live document. In the next days, we are going to do another update with 1 additional important answer to a question raised by some market participant. Therefore, due to this complexity of the documentation, was also in order to help the users, to the DCOA, to navigate to this documentation. In March, in the SAB website, a more concise and easier to consult document has been published with the scope to raise the awareness among the market players on the opportunity offered by the new connection mode, and also with the scope to increase the fair treatment between the 2 network service providers. In the following slides, we actually like to highlight which are the main topics described in the TOR without aiming to be comprehensive to the time at disposition. Then we can start first with the technical solution. And the scope of this SMIG was developed in order to assure maximum resilience for the connection to the target services, while granting low prices. That's actually a very big achievement, I believe, of the tender, but also leveraging of the competition among the 2 network service providers. an application of this principle that various solutions are available, and then for that you have to rely on the description of the services that must be requested to the network service provider. Then in the next slide, we can see which are the processes. We hope, of course, that most of you already gone through all these steps because we are so near to the start of connectivity. Actually, the central bank already started the connectivity. But nevertheless, I believe for the few of you that are not yet started, maybe you can find in this documentation some relevant information. First of all, of course, the first step is the selection of the provider. Here depends on the nature of your nature. If you have a public entity or private entity, maybe if you have a public entity, you have to go to a procurement process according to your local procurement law, or instead you can go directly to negotiate with them. But in any case, it should be clarified that it is network service provider's duty to guarantee vis-à-vis the direct connected actors the compliance with the concession contract. And among these, there is the SLA, the maximum prices, etc. Then the next step after the contract is the quotation. And here it should be clear that the two network service providers are obliged to provide a detailed, a clear quotation by the contract. This quotation is part of should be part of the NSCP offer. And it should be allowed to the direct connected data to verify immediately and by themselves the compliance with the maximum price, other than, of course, to the functional and technical requirements. Another aspect that we receive some question is regarding the duration of the SMIC contract. In the next slide, Lynn. I am going quite fast because I promised to be lean to stick in the time. And the duration of the contract cannot be exceeded the duration of the concession contract itself. That is 10 years. Starting from the first service will migrate to SMIG. That is actually, as we said before, TIPS in November 2021. The contract could also cover other services. For instance, value-added service in any case linked to the target service, or even a service that are completely separated. In any case, also with the possibility to an hybrid use of hardware and software lines, for instance. What is important in any case, as regard the concession contract, all the items that belong to the concession contract, the only valid contract can be signed with cannot be signed with other entity different from the two network service providers. We also received a very lot of questions as regarding which is the boundary of the responsibility of the concession contract. From one side, we have a clear boundary of responsibility between the platform and the network service provider, but this is an internal stuff of the Eurosystem vis-à-vis network service provider, where as regards the demarcation line between the user, the DCOA, and the network service provider, that is under the responsibility, the bilateral discussion between the NSAP and the user. Then should be bilateral agreement between the parties. This is relevant, of course, because when it's been defined this demarcation line, what is inside the demarcation line fall under the concession contract. What is outside is under the responsibility of the DCOA. An example of this choice of the demarcation line is, for instance, you can choose to have the demarcation line inside your premise. You can choose to have the demarcation line in a service bureau or in a technical provider outside your premises, or even you can decide to have the demarcation line in the premise of the network service provider. That came to a possible solution based on a sort of a cloud approach. Another very sensitive topic, I would say, is the reuse of the existing lines and hardware. The document itself, but also the QA, allow this possibility. Then it's possible to reuse the infrastructure already provided by the network service provider directly or by the authorized subcontractor. But in this case, of course, there is a need that the network service provider agree on such a user. But whatever is the choice, in any case, you have to get the same service level foreseen by the concession contract must be guaranteed by the network provider. And all the provision of the SMIC connectivity service should entirely be governed by the SMIC contract between NSP and the DCOA. Then the reuse is allowed, but under certain conditions that are described more in detail in the Q&A. And finally, the last point where we receive also very often a number of questions is linked to the which flexibility is done to increase the resilience of the connection. Here is important we clarified in this document that DCOA can also decide to use a network service provider only for a subset of items under the concession, to choose an SCP for different set of items. Then theoretically it could be possible, for instance, that you select one network service provider for the connection to tips for distant payments, where to select to use another network service provider for all the other services. Or depending on your risk profiles, you can also think to select two network provider with the full connection. Then in this case, we are completely covered by any disruption of one of the two network service provider. Then you can buy two fully fledged solutions. Or that is also another possibility. You can have one fully fledged solution with one network participant, and to select an option that is foreseen by the concession contract, where we call it the low volume that was thinked for the low volume participant, that is based only in the Uconnect connection. Then in this case, you can select one provider for the main channel and to have as a contingency channel the other provider using only U2A. These are only a few examples of the information that you will find in the whole set of documents. Then we can do to the final slide on my presentation, where there is the links. Then Eileen, here you have to double check that it works also maybe on your PC, because my PC works. I'm not sure that it works also for all the other PC, but here there is the hyperlinks to all the documentation that I mentioned in my presentation. First of all, the SMIC terms of reference. Then also all the contractual documentation, that is the second bullet point, as well as the question and answer documents here, where you can find all the details of what I say now very, very extremely, very quickly. In any case, if you do not find the answer to your question in all this documentation, you can always send an email to the email address I highlight here, where we try to answer. And in case, of course, the question is seems as a general interest, we will update the Q&A answer accordingly. For that, I finish my presentation. I thank you all of you for your attention.
Thank you, Marco. And since you have 2 minutes left, so perfect timing, we have a few questions popping up here in the chat, and maybe they seem quick to answer, I think. So there is some people asking about the timing, the 10 years. So when does the 10-year contract start? Is that when you sign with TIPS or with T2, or so they have questions about that? And then somebody's asking if there's an idea to have a third network service provider connected. Maybe you could give a quick comment.
Yes, for the first question is like too easy. Is the 10 years start from November 2021? But that means that if you have already signed the contract, then we will end in 2031 the concession contract. Then the duration of the contract between the NSP and DCOA cannot be later than 2031. As regards the second, we have the possibility in the concession contract to extend this participation. Is an option that Eurosystem has left for this possibility, and but for the moment there is no plan to activate.
Super. Thank you very much, Marco. And as said before, so the slides will be uploaded on the website, also with the links and also to the Q&A that Marco was referring to. They are also on the website. We're also filming with the live streaming. We're filming the whole event, and this will also be uploaded on the webpage afterwards. So without any more delay on that, we want to move to the next speaker, and that is you, Andrea.
Thank you. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you.
And it's my pleasure to be here today. Hi, everyone. My name is Andrea Bacioccola, and I'm representing today SIA-Colt. I'm the Director of Payments at SIA, and what I would like to discuss and present to you today is the SIA-Colt overview and solution related to the connectivity services. Ellen, if you could please move to the next slide. And so, as I mentioned earlier, just to connect back to what Marco was just saying, direct connected actors, or in short, participants, will have the possibility to choose between different options on how they would like to connect to the Eurosystem and to ESMIG. And to that extent, what SIA-Colt believes it would be, let's say, the must going forward, the must intended as something that participants would like to use when connecting, is on the one hand have a service that is highly reliable, and on the other hand to potentially delegate to one of the network service provider a solution that might be an end-to-end solution that goes from lines to connectivity equipment to a gateway application up to a payment hub, because this could be a solution that while being fully in line with the concession contract that we have received, could offer the possibility to direct connected actors to actually simplify the integration with their systems. And sometimes, as we know, with legacy systems that may require adaptation. If we could move to the next slide, please. What I would like to briefly present here is just a very high-level overview of what an end-to-end guaranteed service may look like. If you look on the left, we have the direct connected actor, the participant that basically is connected to the Eurosystem using one NFP. And then at some point, if there is, for any reason, a breakdown in that connectivity, there would be the possibility to have a second connection, an extreme contingency connections, that will allow to immediately route the outgoing traffic and eventually also the incoming traffic through the SIA extreme contingency network. So, and then from there to reach the Eurosystem and to offer the possibility to their customers to continue operations. Now, this configuration can be done either as a standalone configuration or as a configuration for those services where the participant is not using SIA-Colt as the main connection to the Eurosystem. Now, one thing I would like to stress about this solution that is it's a fully managed service, which means we as a SIA-Colt will go on customer premises, and you can see from the slide, and install the hardware and network equipment at the customer premises. The network itself will be a dedicated network connected to the SIA central systems and using SIANet. And then from SIANet, those will be connected to the SIA central applications. And then from there, it will actually go to the interface towards the Euro system. So really a system that is able to adapt and switch, let's say, in real time. It would be like there is a network problem, you press a big red button and automatically all the traffic is routed through another channel. Ellen, if we could please move to the next slide. So the next slide is about explaining a little bit what are the benefits of this solution. And as again, going back to what Marco was saying earlier, on the top of the slide, you see that participants have the flexibility to customize their connectivity towards Sensming, maybe based on geography. I don't know if a bank has multiple sites across Europe, they could decide to connect one site with a network service provider and another site with another network provider, or it could be customized by network infrastructure, or more generically, again, as we were saying earlier, by type of service. For example, application to application may go to a service provider, and user to application may go to another network service provider. Now, this is certainly a huge degree of customization, and what we as SIA are proposing, we are proposing another degree of customization can be added on top of these, which is the extreme contingency service. So you could think of the extreme contingency service like something as you have for those services where SIA is not the primary NSP. And then, you know, it could, and it will bring a network, so you will have a second network to connect to. And at the same time, you will not need to necessarily trade off with existing application and value-added services, because as we will see later, we also have an end-to-end solution that will allow participants to customize their workflows, manage additional value-added services. And so make sure that also in case of extreme contingency, all your operations continue to run smoothly. And finally, all of these comes with a set of professional services attached to it, like, for example, continuous support, 48 hours of testing and support, yearly testing activities, and so on. So with this first part, I'm going to close what is the view of SIA on the extreme contingency, because I would like to spend the next 5 minutes, and next slide, please, Erin, thank you, to move actually to the actually full SIA end-to-end solution. So what I presented so far can be seen here in the slide as the connectivity part and a little bit of the access gateway. So but SIA is able to offer you much more. And in this case, we are looking at the full payment hub end-to-end solution. And again, a solution that is available as a service, with the same integration I mentioned earlier, fully in line with the concession contract, and giving you the ability to basically delegate to the payment hub also additional services that are typical of the bank infrastructure, like for example, the order manager, the business processes, and in general cross services. So an entire end-to-end fully managed solution that goes from, on the left side, from the bank channels, which could be corporate banking, internet banking, mobile, and the ability then to customize your workflows, add value-added services, and then on top of that, using the SIA-Net and SIA-Colt partnership to then reach any of the clearing settlement that are currently available or are currently needed by your business. And this with the advantages of giving modular services, a scalable SaaS platform, and a pay-per-use model. You could see this as an entire suite of services that we offer on top of the what is part of the, let's say, catalog that Marco was referring earlier as part of the SMIG connectivity services. If we can go to the next slide, Ellen, please. So just to give you a little bit of additional information on the Payment Hub, we believe it's a solution that we have been deploying in the market for over the last more than 5 years, and it helped our customers to address the time to market thanks to a smooth integration. Why a smooth integration? Because the entire solution is based on a microservice architecture with a dynamic workflow system that allows banks to basically fine-tune and adjust the behavior of the system with almost zero coding, and then the ability to have rather dynamics and complex workflows managed, and the ability to easily integrate with part of the legacy system, and at the same time offer a channel towards the Euro system. So if we can move to the next slide, I'll just conclude my brief overview, just to discuss just to sum up what we discussed today. So we looked at the connectivity services and services beyond connectivity that SIA together with Colt are offering to connect to the Euro system. It's a solution that goes end-to-end, completely on service, and with the ability to provide a system that is flexible, scalable, and we believe it has been designed with the ease of integration as one of the key pillars. So a way to make simple for banks to connect their legacy systems to these innovative solutions and new channels. It would be, as we mentioned, a single point of access for all the payment schemes. It has been designed secure, meaning security by design, because this is based on a private network connection. We install the network equipment on premises, at bank's premise. It's a fully managed system in terms of software updates, security, starting from the hardware that manages the lines, and all through the entire technology stack managed by SIA. But at the same time, it's a solution that is tailored to your solution, again, using our ability to have dynamic and zero coding workflows. And finally, all of these, on top of all of these, we do a 24/7 client management that covers, as I said, the entire end-to-end. That's pretty much it. Thank you very much for listening. And if there is any question, we probably still have 1 minute, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly, Andrea. Thank you very much. You guys are perfect on timing today. I don't even need to say anything. So well done. We didn't have any questions particularly on coming in on this one. So thank you very much, Andrea. We will then move on to the next speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, which is Isabel. Let me see if you are here. There you are. So perfect.
I am there indeed. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? I guess so, right?
Yes, we hear you perfectly. Thank you.
So, first of all, thank you very much to the Eurosystem for giving me the opportunity to address such a wide audience for the third time. While in the two first occurrences, I used this precious time to explain about the swift, redundant, and resilient network services for ESMIC, about the value-added services that would allow users to connect easily to the ESMIC services, reusing infrastructure, reusing generic messaging services. This time, I think that you all know about this, and if not, we are always available to provide you with more information. This time, I've decided to bring you with me into a travel, which seems very appealing in COVID times, of course. It's basically a travel into the future. We'll be looking into the post-2022 area for payments in particular. Before I do that, I would like to pass to you today the main message of this presentation. And if you can go to the next slide, exactly, thank you very much. There is an animation, you can go ahead, Eileen. The main message that I want to leave to you today is thank you. Thank you to the 886 entities that have reconfirmed their trust in SWIFT by selecting us as network service provider. We are very honored, but we are also fully committed. And if we go to the next slide, you will see that we are ready when it comes to the T2, T2S consolidation projects for the future TARGET2. We are fully ready. You can go with the animation, thank you. We have today 20 central banks that are using our network services to access the testing environments of the Eurosystem. When it comes to the commercial banks, more than 100 have decided to use our TARGET2 simulator, the testing sparring partner, to basically check that the developments they have been doing is totally compliant with the requirements of TARGET2 before the opening of the official testing windows. When it comes to TIPS and T2S, which, as you know, will move from the current framework to the ESMIC framework in November 2021 and June 2022, respectively, likewise, we are fully on track. We are also working on procedures to make sure that the current users can be migrated automatically to the new framework in a swift and fast and easy manner. We're also active on the ECMS front, supporting the Eurosystem with standards consulting, but supporting some of you already now in the impact assessment process. So overall, we reconfirm our commitment to this important ESMIC agenda, and we are fully ready to support you in the different steps. If we look in particular to the TARGET2 environment, the payments target services tips, but mainly TARGET2, I think it's clear that TARGET2 is the heart of the European payments ecosystem, but it actually goes beyond. More than 30% of the TARGET2 payments have a leg outside of the EU area. Therefore, TARGET2 is key also for the cross-border payments. And I think that there is a consensus, both from the public and from the private sector, that cross-border payments is an area where there are still a number of issues to be addressed. Issues of low speed, high cost, or insufficient transparency. The initiatives of the FSB, or CPMI, but also the Eurosystem linking tips to the cross-border rails of GPI or to other instant payment market infrastructures are all going into that direction. We at SWIFT share also that ambition of improving cross-border payments, making sure that the banks keep their relevance in that business. Our strategy is to allow instant and frictionless cross-border payments. Moving from a traditional messaging platform into a transaction management service. That journey has started already with GPI. GPI that is there since 2017, that has allowed to link the different messages pertaining to a same transaction together, that has allowed to have a tracking of the payment at every stage, but that also comes with SLAs that are monitored. GPI has demonstrated that it not only create more transparency on cross-border transactions, but also increase the speed. Today, more than 60% of the MT103 are sent as GPI. 250 billion euro every day use the GPI tracks. 40% of these transactions arrive at destination in less than 5 minutes. Only 4% arrive in more than 24 hours. So it demonstrates that progress has been made thanks to GPI, but there are still other frictions to be addressed. These frictions are mainly in the compliance area, but also in some political hurdles related to country or currency restrictions. A big part of these frictions are, in our view, linked to the data issues. Payments data tends to be incomplete. Information is lost on its way. It's unstructured in some cases. It creates STP breaches. It creates false positives or reconciliation issues. SWIFT, with its strategy, will launch in November 2022, on time for the TARGET2 migration, a transaction manager. The transaction manager in its first release will focus on data and will facilitate the migration to ISO 20022. ISO 20022, why? Well, I think it was already mentioned by Dimitri in its introduction. ISO 20022 is not only the standard chosen by the Eurosystem, it is also the standard chosen by 80% of the payments market infrastructure globally by 2025. It's an end-to-end consistent standard that allows for rich and structured data to be transported. It will unlock value-added services for you banks to offer to your clients. It will also allow you to improve the efficiency of your operational processes in terms of screening, investigation, and so forth. You can find additional information on ISO 20022, of course, on our website, but I would also recommend the reading of the Deutsche Bank reports on that topic, which are very well done. If we come back to the transaction management platform, thank you, Eline. Our transaction management platform is built on our messaging platform. That platform that today connects you to 11,000 users across the globe, market infrastructure, financial institutions, or corporate customers. It also leverages the tracking and all the benefits of GPI, but it goes beyond. It includes a transaction copy, what we used to call the golden copy for the payments. While the GPI tracker today only stores and gives visibility on the key highlights of the payments to involved entities, the transaction copy will include the full, rich, and structured data of the payment that will be enriched and updated along the chain, will be accessible to all parties in the transactions, but will also be used to generate the flow towards every single entity in the chain. Every single entity choosing its preferred format, MT or ISO 20022, but also its preferred channel, messaging or API. And this completely independently on the counterparts, which is very important because it means that you can actually adopt a new standard and adopt new technology at your own pace, not being dependent or limited by your counterparties. For the European banks, this is a key functionality because it will allow you as a TARGET2 player to receive a rich ISO 20022 message through TARGET2 and relay it as a rich ISO 20022 message to the next party in the chain, even if the next party is not yet capable to fully manage that message. We will deliver the equivalent MT and provide the truncated information for exceptional manual processing to that counterparty. It means that the truncation risk will not be faced by the European banks, and you can adopt and embrace ISO 20022 in full. The transaction copy will also guarantee an end-to-end integrity. No payment will be at a certain moment in the chain moved from a $5 to a $5 million due to a cyber attack. The platform will also come with embedded mutualized services. In the release one of the platform, these services will be the pre-validation on one side. As soon as a transaction hits the platform for the first time, the transaction manager will make sure that the information is complete and correct, knowing the path that the payment will take, knowing the currency and the country of destination. It will avoid that a payment is stuck at a certain point in the transaction chain for lack of information or incorrect account number, for instance. Another mutualized services will be a fraud control. The platform will look at payment path, identify abnormal payments, and alarm or stop these payments. The screening service of SWIFT will be embedded as well in the platform. If a player in the chain is not capable of screening the rich data that it will get, it can actually rely on the SWIFT screening service embedded in the platform. Over time, in the next releases of the platform, we will be adding additional services offered by third party or even by SWIFT. The first focus of SWIFT will be on the compliance area, where we believe there are still a lot of hurdles and frictions to be solved to allow for fast and instant frictionless transactions. In the compliance area, our objective longer term is to move from a repetitive screening by every player in the transaction to a screen once only. But we know that this ambition is a bit longer term ambition, so in the short term, we'll put in place a number of intermediary steps. We'll be looking at standardizing the screening lists, harmonizing the screening processes, but also allowing or facilitating the dialogue with the regulators. This first release of the platform will not only be there for the interbank correspondent banking flows, but also for a fast growing business, the SME and retail payments business, where the banks have now an urgent need to reintermediate themselves to capture that fast growing business. If we go to the next slide, Ellie, thank you. So in conclusion, Euro will be the first top currency to adopt ISO 20022 in its fully fledged way with the rich data, which means that the European banks will be in a unique position to benefit from that rich data before any other banks in the world. SWIFT is fully supporting this move. The transaction management will be there to make sure that the European banks are not delayed in that adoption path because of their counterparts or are not suffering from truncation risks. So we are fully committed, and we will make sure that we support you in all your ESMIC testing and adoption phases and more. I think time has come to congratulate the Eurosystem for this ambitious objective that it's about to achieve, but also the European community for this fast adaptation. You can count on us not just for ESMIC, as I was mentioning before, but also in the further steps towards payment transformation. There will be future challenges to allow for banks to keep on playing a role and allow frictionless, instant, transparent, and competitive payment services. SWIFT, our platform, our cooperative, is there to allow to solve together common issues in a cooperative spirit, but the platform is also your platform to innovate in the competitive areas. In a nutshell, you can count on us. We will be there. We are you cooperative. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Isabel. Also perfect on time. We have 1 minute for you. So we have a question here that maybe you want to answer. It's about the SWIFT transaction management platform. So the person is asking, is it capable to convert the TARGET2 ISO messages?
So in a first release, the platform will be focused on the interbank flows, so not the TARGET2 transactions, for which we have translation solutions on premises only at this stage.
Super. Thank you for this.
Thank you.
Excellent. So as said, both the presentation and the video will be uploaded on the website. So if you missed anything, you can view it after the event. So we are ready to move to the next part of the session, which is on preparing for user testing and migration. And with us, we should have Jean-Pierre with us. So I'm just checking if he's there. He is there. Excellent. So welcome on board. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ellen. So good morning, everyone. So I will indeed speak about the preparation of the user testing and migration. So the objective really today is to not only to speak about milestones and planning, but also on giving you more insight on the activities and what is planned in the coming months, basically. So if we start, so basically there is a fact in terms of when we look at the start of connectivity testing, and so we are still basically 78 days before the start and 169 before the start of user testing. So it's obviously not something I had in mind before, but this really means it's tomorrow. So it means that it is really important now to focus on the latest steps in the preparation. And more importantly, that, as you know, the migration is a big bang migration, meaning that it's really important for all actors to be to follow the pace of the entire program, but as well of the user testing and to monitor progress. So to help in reaching that objective, today we will present the main activities expected in the user testing journey, including the migration rehearsals, also putting a lot of emphasis on the list of documents that are there basically to help you in the preparation of all these steps. So if we look now in terms of the journey in user testing, we have identified 7 critical steps. So the first one is basically the fact that you have completed the connectivity testing to SMIC for the user testing. The second one will be the fact that you have filled in your registration form and sent this registration form to the NCB. And then it comes to the, I would say, the capture of the data of your registration form data, first by the NCB, and then your own capture basically in the user testing environment. As from that moment, we come to the step 5, then you can start the user testing execution, where we'll zoom in some specific testing. And then you will also, important milestones in this user testing is that you have to pass the mandatory test cases and also to participate to the migration rehearsals. So based on all these elements, we should be in a good position and when I say we, it's all together in a good position to be ready for the go live. We can have a smooth transition to the new system. So now I intend just to go step by in these critical steps. First on the timeline, I think there is no surprise. It's fully in line with what Dimitri mentioned in the introduction as planning. So the connectivity for user testing from 1st of September till end of November, the registration for the user testing that you have to fill in and provide to the NCB starting from September, then the capture of reference data, your own capture, and the capture first by the NCB. Then we will zoom in the user testing, yes, that is planned from 1st of December till a few weeks before the launch. Then we will focus on migration rehearsal because we think it's also important to share with you the dates such that you can be prepared. There will be some rehearsal during the week, but as well during the weekend. And then finally, all the activities that you have to perform in the production environment before the go live. So for that last step, I will not really go in details. I think we have still time for it in a future focus session. The only point is to not forget that this preparation is already starting from May 2022 with the start of the connectivity test 2 production. Okay, so now what I propose is to really go step by step, and we always see on the slide basically the number of the steps. So here we are in step 1. So it's about the testing of the connectivity to SMIC. So here basically I will not focus on what is required to set up the connectivity testing with previous sessions on, I think already in the previous focus session, but also with the sessions this morning from Marco, Andrea, and Isabel. I think you should know I have all the information. I would like just to stress in terms of connectivity testing, what is expected, when can we consider that the connectivity testing is passed. So there, basically, we need to make a distinction between the A2A connectivity and the U2A connectivity testing, knowing that for the A2A, the objective of connectivity testing is really to test the connectivity, nothing more. So basically, we will consider that A2A connectivity test is successful just if when you send a A2A message to SMIC, you are able to receive ADMI 007, meaning that the SMIC has acknowledged the receipt of your message and has sent back to you this ADMI 007. Okay, so that's for the A2A connectivity. Then we have for the U2A, if we could just still remain on the previous slide. Yeah, so it was for the A2A. Then for the U2A connectivity, the U2A connectivity will be considered as passed, provided you can reach a user from your entity can reach the SMIC landing page. So when is it planned, as I already mentioned, is starting from 1st of September, and really encourage most of you, all of you basically to start as from the 1st of September, knowing that there could be some unexpected events or support that would be needed. So really to mitigate the risk versus the start of the user testing on 1st of December, please, if you are ready, and I think you will be, please start as soon as possible. Then in terms of support, the support first level will be obviously provided by the selected NSP, so the NSP support team of the NSP you have selected, and the National Service Desk. For some specific situation, a trilateral call between the NSP support team, the target service operator, and the National Service Desk can be organized to basically accelerate the fact-finding or the troubleshooting if necessary. So in terms of key documents, so as mentioned, we'll try for each step to remind what are the key documents. So here, basically, the key document for this step 1 is the T2 connectivity guide, and obviously all the documents and guide that have been published and provided by your NSP. So here I don't indicate any date. You will see at the end of the presentation, there will be a recap of all the key documents, and the publication date are either already published or we set the target date for the publication. So this is for the step 1 of the journey. So we know if we move to the next slide, we'll see that we come to the step 2. And the step 2 is about your own, so the registration of the participant, and which is done basically by the fact that we have to fill in the registration form that will be available on the EC website and as well on the NCB site. So there, basically what we expect from you is to fill in the registration form with all the information required in that form, and to submit it well in advance of the 1st of December to your NCB. Why well in advance? Because your NCB, we have to collect and basically verify the information you have provided in the registration form. So now if we look basically in all the elements, so in terms of scope of this step 2, so we can move to the next slide. So as mentioned, it's quite clear. So provide the fill-in registration form to your NCB. The planning when. So as mentioned, the objective is that you have to fill in and complete and send the form to your NCB well in advance before the 1st of December. So the exact date, basically, and deadline will be communicated by your NCB, because that depends a bit on basically on the size of the community of the NCB. Now, in terms of first level support, your first level support will be provided by the National Service Desk. In terms of key documents, registration guide and registration form are the one that you need to look at to be prepared for this step 2. Okay. Now, moving to the next step, and the next step is basically you have filled in your registration form. Now, all this information need to be captured in the user testing environment. So that's a step 3. So that will be first captured by the NCB, and then when it's captured by the NCB, the participant will be able to fill in his own additional reference data, like the additional users, the account configuration, your own message subscription, and the specific report configuration, for example. So now if we zoom in the step 3 in the next slide. So, so as mentioned, this is about the capture by the NCB. So in terms of capture, when will that happen? So it will be the first activity basically in the user testing. And so starting from the 1st of December 2021. So from that date, the NCB will capture the registration form in the user testing environment. So the privileged first level support is provided by your National Service Desk. And here, basically, what is really important to look at is, for at least for the NCB that will capture this information, is that all the information on how to capture are basically detailed in the functional specification documents, so the UDFS and the UHB. Now, if we move to step 4, so step 4 is about the capture by the participants of the specific reference data that I mentioned earlier. So when can that start? So it's basically upon the green light of your NCB. So as soon as the NCB has capture your reference data in the user testing environment, they will give a signal that you can start your own capture of reference data. So there, in terms of primary or first level support, still your National Service Desk, and same information as before in terms of key documents. It's the UDFS and the UHB CRDM that will help you in this step 4. So now moving, if you remember the journey, so the step 5 is about the fact that you can start the user testing execution. So in terms of overall organization, so we have split the overall user testing phase in 2 main phases. So the community testing and the business day testing. So in the community testing part, you will be able to basically test all together the interactions between you and the platform and the your system platform, but as well all the basically multilateral testing that you could imagine with your counterparts in the user testing environment. So this is about the community testing. Then we will basically, at some point in time, start the business day testing. We'll see the exact timing later on. But the business day testing aims at basically making sure that all the actors can run their process and follow the production schedule with all the target services connected, including, for example, T2S. Then on top of these 2 main phases, we have specific testing campaign which aim at testing some very specific scope. And there we have 3 basically in that area. So we have the migration rehearsal. So there, the objective really is to rehearse the activities that are planned in the migration weekend. We have the contingency testing. There we refer here to the contingency in the migration. So basically, we have identified certain of contingency measures that could be activated in case, if needed, during the migration during the migration. And so the objective of this contingency testing is to rehearse as well, to test these procedures. And then we come to the operational testing, which where it's really important testing as well, about the testing of the operational procedures by the NCB and the participants based on the scenario that will have been elaborated based on the operational procedures. So this is a way to an introduction to how overall the user testing is organized. Now, if we move to the next slide, we saw, so in terms of scope, that's what I already mentioned in the previous slide. So now we, in terms of planning, so basically the community testing will last for approximately 7 months till July at the moment, and in July we start the business day phase, meaning that at this point in time, the other target services will be connected, like T2S and TIPS. And this phase will basically start in July till the few weeks before the go live, and also with a short period of really live timing schedule. So it will be the final basically confirmation that everyone is able to sustain the production schedule, the live timing. So as usual for the user testing, so the first level is provided by your national service desk. And in terms of key documents to support you in your preparation, so we can basically mention the user testing migration and strategy, and the user testing terms of reference. That will give you all the basically how the way the user testing will be organized in much more detail than what I'm doing here in this focus session. So now if we move to the step six, so step 6, as I mentioned, there are specific focus testing. And so this step six is about the mandatory test cases. And so basically the, as you probably already know, there is a certain number of test cases that are flagged as mandatory test cases that each participant has to successfully execute to be able to join basically the and to join T2. So the objective there is not to give you a 1,000 test cases, but really a limited number of test cases to reassure everyone that you can really be an actor in T2. So and so for these ones, basically results, you have to provide the results to your NCB, and there will be a particular focus at the ECB level and in its role of coordination to monitor the progress of the of all the participants through the report that will be produced by the NCB to monitor the overall progress on the on these mandatory test cases. So in terms of planning, it's quite easy. So you have the full user testing stage to execute this one. Again, as for the connectivity testing, we we recommend basically to not wait the last months to start, but really to as soon as possible to start passing these mandatory test cases. So just maybe in the previous slide, so there was a particular document, so the T2 mandatory test cases that basically defined describes all these test cases, which can be at some point in time optional, meaning depending on the profile of participant, your participation type, you could have some specific test cases. So we're not, just to not afraid you, so we are talking here about 25 or 24 test cases for the moment that are defined as mandatory, and less for the ancillary systems. So thank you. So that's for the mandatory test case. So another, and we'll spend a bit of time here because I think we are quite good on the timing. So here it's about the specific testing about the rehearsal of the migration. So that's quite an important element, and because that's really during the migration weekend that we will move basically all the balances from target 2 to the new system. So here, as you can imagine, since the account structure between target 2 and the NT2 CLM is changing, that you will have to think about your new account structure in T2. And then there could be multiple situation of mapping, basically, or relationship between your TARGET2 account and the new cash account in T2. So there, basically, we will try to, so there will be a facility to automatically migrate the balances, provided there is basically a quite simple relationship between the old your old TARGET2 cash account and your new cash account structure in T2. So basically, if you have if there is a one-to-one mapping or a many-to-one mapping, this the migration tool will be able to cope with your fully with the migration of balances. In case of other situation like many-to-many or one-to-many situation, we will be in a position to basically to migrate your liquidity to one targeted MCA account or an account in CLM, and then you will be in charge of redistributing the liquidity to your various accounts in T2. So that's why basically, if you look at now in the steps in terms of preparation and running the migration weekend rehearsal. So the first step obviously will be in terms of pre-migration, that step 3 and step 4 are done, because before 3 and 4 being done, we cannot do any testing. But also you see in the second block there is about the preparation of mapping information, mapping what we call here the national mapping table, that will be basically used by the facility or the tool that will migrate the balances from TARGET2 to T2. So this is really a key element. And so for there, basically your NCB will provide the required files or Excel sheet that we have to fill in to provide the NCB with your own mapping. And then basically at the time of the migration weekend and the migration weekend rehearsal, this mapping table will be used by the tool to move the balances from TARGET2 to CLM. And then one of the first activity will be in this migration weekend after the run of the tool will be to reconcile basically the migrated balances, both on the NCB side and on the participant side. And then, as I mentioned before, there will be a need to redistribute, depending on the type of structure you have, they will need to distribute the liquidity from CLM to your specific account in CLM or to other DCAs in your if you're active in other target services. And then basically this is the type of activity that will be executed in the migration rehearsal, because the idea is that in the migration rehearsals we will execute the same scenario when applicable, obviously, and when possible, the same scenario as in the migration weekend, the migration activity that we perform during the production weekend. So if we now move to the next slide, just give you a bit more, I think, important information on the planning. So in terms of scope, I think the previous slide has provided all the elements. Now, in terms of planning, as you see, the first one basically is already planned on the 28th of March. So basically we have 3. So we have one in March, one in July, and one in September. Then we see a difference between what we call MWR and MWDR. So the MWR is about this migration weekend rehearsal, and migration and MWDR is migration weekend dress rehearsal. So the difference being that the migration to the MWR is executed during a week, while the migration weekend, the MWDR, is executed during the weekend. So really in the same conditions, so 24 hours, 34 hours, than in the during the migration weekend in production. So for the July, so the date of March and September are already confirmed. So 28th of March and 23rd of September. I think you should already earmark these dates in your in the calendar. And then for the date in July, it's about to be fixed normally in the coming weeks. We had the initial date, but we had to change. So we are targeting a date early July. Okay, so in terms of support, so again, same first level is provided by your national service desk in terms of key documents. So there, basically, as I mentioned, we have a global migration weekend playbook for basically at the Eurosystem level. Now, depending on the rehearsal and the scope of the activities and schedule will be basically provided by the NCB and derived basically from the global migration weekend playbook. So one of the important elements, as mentioned, is the fact that you will have to fill in the information on the mapping, and for this purpose, you will receive, there will be a template that you will have to fill in and provide to the NCB when you will be filled in. Okay, so then I think that's it's okay on the terms of migration rehearsal. So if we then move to the next step. So what is obviously important in your preparation is that you get some training on all these, not only on the functionalities, and that's the new system, but as well on how, in detail, how the user testing will be organized. So for this purpose, the NCBs, your NCBs is in charge of organizing and executing the training, including the preparation of the training material. The scope can be basically a bit adapted based on the needs in each NCB. So we for example, we heard that some NCB will have a specific events or training on connectivity and registration, and maybe some has already been conducted. But so if you have a view on what you need to know, you want to know what are the training organized by your NCB. So obviously you can contact your NCB, but on the ECB website, you have also a list of the national events that you can consult, and this list is regularly refreshed with the information we receive from the NCB. Okay, so now I think we can move to the last slide, which is about, as announced before, about the all the documents that you can consult that are available for your preparation on to user testing. So the first one is in the overarching, I would say, documents about migration testing and readiness strategy. So here it's mentioned publication mid-June 2021. So I can announce the good news. So basically, this strategy document has been approved by the MIB on Friday, and today at 10:30, it has been published on the ECB website. So that's the good news. You can already have a look, and you will find more information on what I've explained today. So then we come to the T2 connectivity guide. So this one is published. Registration guide and onboarding guide is also published. The registration form is about to be published mid-July. Mandatory test cases, so the full details will be provided end of June, so very soon. The user testing terms of reference, so what I called it before, the UT tour. So publication mid-July. Then about the specific migration weekend rehearsal activities and schedule, that will be provided by the NCBs basically well in advance of the migration weekend rehearsal. In the first one, I remind you, is in March. As mentioned, we have a list of the local event and training sessions, so provided by NCB and also published on the website. And then we have some FAQ on migration testing and readiness. So the version is already published, and so that's a living document. So the new publication is planned for mid-July. So you will see that for some of the deliverables, we have put 2 asterisks. Basically there, since these documents will also be used for the product migration in production, so we will we could benefit from lessons learned during the user testing execution, and so we will, if so, we plan to produce a new version to include all these elements. So I think that's the last slide. So thank you very much for your attention, and be sure that the Eurosystem is there to basically to support you in this UT journey, and it's quite a long journey. Because we start 1st of September with connectivity test, and December, and then 11 months till go live. So that's really important that you have all the elements to be successful, and so in this UT journey. So thank you.
Thank you, Jean-Pierre. So we've had 1 million questions coming in on, but it's here on this slide. So maybe you just want to say it one more time on the when the mandatory test cases will be available.
So it's mid-July.
So it's here on the slide. So we've had a lot of people asking that one. There's also a question about the T2S connecting, so the existing T2S user testing data from the SDMG, and how that will be migrated, if that will be migrated by the ECB to the CRDM, and how that will when that will happen is the question. Is that something you can answer?
Okay, so maybe first mandatory test case is end of June, so it's 2 weeks from now. Now, in terms of SDM migration to CRDM, so you have to know that it's basically from a common component. For the T2S data, they don't need to be migrated, because they basically that will be automatically the case, since CRDM is an extension basically of SDM. So, so a certain number of elements for the one that are already basically defined in T2S, a certain number of elements in terms of parties and so on are already defined. Now, this means that you will have to complement this data with all the data specific to T2. This is the plan.
Super. There's also one question here on the migration weekends, press rehearsal weekends. So you will probably understand the question better than me. So the question is how it's performed, if it's on UAT infrastructure, or of the user testing will be done on live infrastructure.
So the migration rehearsal will be performed in the user testing environment, so in the same testing environment. So there will be some specific measures basically to create a snapshot before we run the migration rehearsal, and then to restore basically the image after the migration rehearsal, to not impact the testing that was done till that moment in the user testing environment.
Super. Thank you, Jean-Pierre. I think that answers most of the questions. And then just to inform everybody that we do have a Target Services newsletter that we send out. And of course, when we upload the mandatory test cases, we will share the newsletter so everyone is aware of this. It seems to be something everyone is looking for. Yep. So thank you, Jean-Pierre, for this.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we will move on. So we also have some information for you here. As always, we have the newsletter that we send out on a regular basis with the news on the projects. And you can also follow us in the LinkedIn group, where we always post the latest news on the projects. So without any more delay on this, we will move to the next item of the agenda, which is on market readiness. And we should have Maite here with us. So I'm just checking in with you, Maite, if you're here.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Maite. Perfect, and see you. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Eileen. Good afternoon to everyone. We are going to update you a little bit on the market readiness status of our community. So I don't know if you can share the slides, Eileen. As you all know, we have defined a community readiness framework to monitor the readiness of all communities to migrate to the new target system. And then we recompile information through all the central banks and elaborate a report which is used to support the decisions of the market infrastructure board and also all the governance bodies in the project. The last reporting cycle took place in April-May and is based on information captured by the end of March. This information is recompiled by all central banks from their own status, their community status, but also on close monitor participants status and also regularly monitored participants. We consider closely monitored participants those that are critical participants in TARGET2, but also some additional participants that the central banks may consider also relevant for the preparation for the go-live of their communities. We have currently 142 closely monitored participants and more than 2,000 regularly monitored participants. During these surveys, they report on the confidence level to go live in November 22, but also central banks and closely monitored participants report on specific milestones, both past and future milestones. On past milestones for this reporting cycle, they have reported in different categories for central banks and participants. Central banks have reported on what we call ID6, that is the completion of the software development for the required adaptations. That was due end of March. And participants, mainly closely monitored participants, because for regularly monitored participants, the level of the detail of the reporting is lower. But closely monitored participants report on the milestones concretely on ID. They reported in the cycle on ID7, that is the start of their testing, that should have started beginning of March. And also on the milestone NSP3 that requires the completion of the selection of the NSP and the contract preparation associated. Central banks and regularly monitored participants also report, as I said, on previous milestones, of the status of previous milestones in case they were pending for completion, and also on the overall confidence level to complete the next milestones in the next quarter. So based on this, on the answers to these surveys, we elaborate on a complete dashboard per community that you can see in this slide. As you see, we have a breakdown per community and also on all the relevant questions that we ask through our questionnaire, and what is also the evolution in the below part compared to previous reports. Since this dashboard can be too detailed to go through it also in one slide, we have highlighted for you the main figures or the main relevant statistics regarding the community readiness. So one of the main questions of our survey is what is the assessment of central banks about the readiness of their respective communities to go live in 2022. 19 central banks, that means 76% of them, answered that based on the situation by end of March, they are confident, fully confident, in fact, that their communities will be able to migrate on time for November 2022. 24% of the central banks have identified risks that require additional efforts to reach the migration goal, but the risks themselves do not jeopardize their ability to go live on time. On the right side, you can see another diagram that shows the result to another question that we asked the central banks, because they also evaluate the progress of their own internal projects compared with the global milestones. And there, the overall confidence of the central banks on the situation brings a similar, more or less a similar view, with a slight improvement, in fact, from December to March, since now 20 central banks consider themselves fully ready regarding their own internal projects to migrate on time. We move to the next slide, thank you. Here we see a little bit more detailed information for the closely monitored participants' readiness. Overall, the situation has slightly increased or improved from December last year to March this year. Currently, there are no closely monitored participants that consider themselves ready to migrate on time, and the percentage that are fully confident has increased slightly. Regarding past milestones, 65% of the closely monitored participants declare have completed the milestone ID7. That means the testing of internal applications started beginning of March. And as their confidence on future milestones, 45% of the closely monitored participants have reported green for having the software development completed by the end of June this year. 48% have declared themselves yellow and 6% red. We are still this situation, as I mentioned, was gathered beginning at the end of March, or beginning of April, in fact, and compiled beginning of April. So this show, we hope that by the time we reach the next reporting cycle, these percentages have also improved. As for the regularly monitored participants that are shown in the next slide, here the information of the more than 2,000 regularly monitored participants is provided at a higher level of detail. But then the situation now, as compared, we have additional information that we didn't have available in December 2020. We have lowered the number of regularly monitored participants that had not answered to our previous survey. So that's why most of them have now declared themselves as yellow. Most of the ones who didn't answer in December have declared themselves as yellow. But still, there is a huge percentage of them that are fully confident to migrate on time. We only have a minor number of participants, 4 in particular, that are still looking at the migration with a red glass, meaning that they consider themselves really not able to migrate. So they are getting support from the respective central banks to overcome the difficulties. And we hope and we put all our efforts to solve this situation for this limited number of participants, nevertheless. The next reporting cycle, if we move to the next slide, will happen in July, August, with the information related to the end of this month, to the end of June. During this reporting cycle, we will gather information on 2 milestones: the NSP4, that is the network service provider procurement fully completed. We need to remember that the start of connectivity test, as Jean-Pierre was mentioning, is beginning of September. So it's particularly critical that the NSP's procurement is completed. And then the second milestone that will be included will be the ID6, the software development for the required adaptation changes should be completed. As also mentioned by Dimitri earlier, this milestone comes a little bit later than the start of the testing, because we assume an overlap in the projects of the different participants, independently of the methodology they use. We assume an overlap between software development and testing phases. So with the information that we will gather in this exercise, we will share the community readiness report and dashboard with the TCCG, that is the Target Services Contact Group, and also the AMIPay. The expected timing is mid-August, after the review of all the governance bodies in the Eurosystem and the recopilation, of course, of all the answers by the central banks and the elaboration of the report. The timeline, I think we have provided you already with a sufficient amount of links if you require additional information. This is one more that I think it was also included by Dimitris, that the description of the milestones that can be found on the ECB website, and also the global timeline. So this is all for the community readiness. I don't know if there is any question on the chat, Aline, or
Yes, we have a few questions on the chat. We have somebody asking about the milestones on software development completed. So, and it's on the reporting on yellow. So it's about that some of the CPMs are reporting yellow status on this one. And the question is, what message do we want to bring? Does the ECB and the NCB want to bring on this? And what are the actions that we want to take?
well, the message is that these participants should really reinforce the efforts, because as I mentioned, the start of connectivity test is quite soon, and the December one for the functional test, it's also, as Jean-Pierre was counting the days, I think it was 168. So it's really important for the participants to really prioritize the readiness for the project. And also one of the measures that we are having now is increase awareness with the focus session. Try to be as supportive as possible through the network of the NCBs and the central banks that participate. So they should approach the central banks to really get the support. We are now starting with the training as well for the central banks that will also give additional material for them in case they have questions. Again, questions should be raised to their central banks, but there is also a big community that is central banks that allows that central banks are supporting each other as well in case there are cross-border entities. So all in all, we are putting all the efforts on our side to help the participants to be ready, and they also have this project as a priority, because the timing is really counting down.
Excellent, thank you, Marta. Good, so I think we would move on with the panel. Yes. So let us double check that the panel members are still here. Stephanie, Edward, Olga, can you speak to us so we can just double check that we have you on board?
Edward speaking. Sorry.
Okay. Super, thank you.
We hear each other. Perfect.
Excellent.
So, this is Stephanie.
Super, so you're all there. Super, I hand over to you, Marta.
Thank you very much, Aline. Thank you very much, and welcome to our three panelists. We have organized this panel because we think it's also the best way to take the pulse to the participants on how they are preparing, and what is best is to listen directly from them, what are their challenges, their status, and what is also expected they are expecting from us. So it's really, I would like to welcome the three of you. I will introduce you. Edward, we have Edward Bertet. Edward is the head of Treasury, Forex, and Money Market Operations in BNP Paribas. He's in charge globally of all topics related to Treasury forecast, liquidity, and collateral management of T2S at BNP Paribas. He's a member of the French AMIPay National Stakeholder Group and also of our Target Consolidation Contract Group. And he's the global coordination for BNP Paribas group on T2 T2S consolidation project. So welcome, Edward. We have also Stephanie Blageman. She's a senior business expert in liquidity at Commerzbank. Her passion for the target services started with the introduction of T2S, so she's with us for a long time now. She's a member of the Target Consolidation Contact Group and a member of the German AMIPay National Stakeholder Group. And we also have Olga. So welcome, Stephanie. We also have Olga Bespalko. Olga is a payment system senior expert at Latvia Central Bank. She's involved at the local and Eurosystem level in target consolidation, but also in TIPS and TIPS reachability measures, and as well as for the ECMS project. So welcome, Olga, and thank you again, the three of you, for participating in this panel. I think we have all of you connected, but just let me double check with Eileen that it is the case.
Yes, they're all here and they can all speak, so we have checked, so we are ready to go.
I particularly cannot see them, so.
Okay, they're here, they're here.
And as I said, we will have this panel with them, and we will also have some questions to the audience, and we will leave at the end 10 minutes open for questions in case there will be. I assume there will, so our panelists can answer for all the doubts that you may have. For the stream, for those who are following us on streaming, I remember, Eileen, the questions will come only via email. So I think I have presented a high-level overview on the results of our latest report on community readiness. So the next milestone is the development of the finalization of the development of the adaptations required for the consolidation. But how do you see, maybe this is a question more for Stephanie and Edward, how do you see the overall readiness of your institution for the next steps that are mainly focused on testing and migration? And what is your main challenge? I don't know who, Stephanie or Edward, would like to start.
I can start. Maite, thank you very much for having me on the panel. Before answering your question, I would like to give you some information about the T2S consolidation project at Commerzbank. For us, the Big Bang migration in November 2022 means that TARGET2 accounts, which we will have with almost half of the Eurosystem central banks, will go live. And we all know that the changes associated with the T2S consolidation not only mean new accounts on new target platform, but also the introduction of ISO 20022 messages, a new connection to the target services via SMIC, the Eurosystem Single Market Infrastructure Gateway, and fundamental changes to the account structure due to the separation of CLM and RTGS accounts. So you can imagine that this comes with a lot of testing and a lot of migration preparation, which brings us to your question, what is the main challenge? And my answer would be the fact that the T2S consolidation project is not the only big project out there. We have other ISO 20022 migration projects, which we have to work on. We have other target services projects going on, like TIPS, the introduction of ECMS, the Eurosystem Collateral Management System, and the migration of the T2S connectivity to SMIC. One more comment I would like to make. There is one challenge that we all should keep in mind when it comes to the finalization of the development of the adaptations required for the consolidation. September 2022 will bring us user detailed functional specification version 3.0. And that is shortly before the Big Bang migration in November 2022. And although all upcoming change requests are published on an ongoing basis on the T2S consolidation website, so that we do not have to wait until September of next year to see the content of the UDFS 3.0. I think we still need to be prepared that there might be some additional software development, implementation, and testing yet to come. Thank you, and back to you, Maite.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Indeed, we have not only at Eurosystem level, we have projects, but it's true that they are concurrent with also other projects as well. Edward, I don't know if you share this view or you have different challenges.
Well, let me start like Stephanie did to explain a bit what it means for us as BNP Paribas Group for this T2 T2S consolidation project. Some figures to have an idea of the dimension of the project for us. When we started the project, we looked at all central bank accounts, and we end up with circa 40. So 40 central bank accounts, be it PM account, HAM account, or even account open in legacy systems of some central banks that are not using today TARGET2 for mandatory reserve, for instance. And this within 11 NCBs coming, and those accounts are open from 16 different legal entities within BNP Paribas Group, so branches or subsidiaries. So we saw that the work would be, and the path would be very long for us. So we made a big work at the start of the project to redefine all the needs around central bank accounts. And finally, with also ongoing project, because I mean, the business is running since the beginning of the project, and things are moving. So we made some acquisitions, some merger, and now we are more. So we are intending to open 21 accounts in TARGET2, so MCA or DCA RTGS within 11 NCBs. So having said that, so that's the overall size of the projects. So one of the challenge, because you mentioned a challenge for us, is to have a great coordination of teams, because we have teams everywhere in each locations, because we are very close to central banks. So we need to make sure that each team will understand what will change compared to today, and what will be we expect from them on the next testing phases, because we will have a lot of things to do in 2022. So we need to be organized and to make sure that everybody will be on board for this very intensive period in front of NCBs. And what we tell them, because we made recently again a European tour with all teams, we said get prepared, because the momentum in front of your NCBs will accelerate, obviously. Because a lot of reasons, not only testing, but also account opening request with some forms that we will receive, where we will need to input some functional data, but also some technical data. So it's not so easy for everybody to understand exactly what we need to populate in all the forms that we will receive from you, NCBs. So we made a focus on that. For other aspects, we tried on a different way to be very centralized as a group, and that's the case for the connectivity part. So for the connectivity part, the choice of BNP Paribas Group was to build only one connectivity setup, which means for the forthcoming steps, especially NSP that will come, we are very confident in having everything set up for the connectivity testings, and we hope that still discussions that we have with some NCBs to have only one connectivity testing to be performed for all the legal entities that we will use and connect to TARGET2, which is maybe something that have other institutions that are like us connecting to TARGET2 for various entities. Instead of performing as many connectivity testing as an NCB we have in front of us, what we would like is to have only one connectivity testing that would be certified by ECB, for instance, that we can show to any NCBs saying, look, we are ready to exchange with TARGET2. That's one of our requests we would like from Eurosystem, is to have something organized as far as connectivity testing is concerned, to avoid having multiple exchanges with local NCBs, even if we know that that's the way it works within a Eurosystem. That it's not a surprise for us, but that's something that we would like. This is a special message for you. So a kind of a certification from ECB. This is what we got from when we connected to T2S. By the way, we are DCP, so directly connected participant to T2S. Only one connection as an NSP. And so we could show to various CSDs that we were ready to exchange with T2S thanks to this certification. So that's one of the message. As far as IAD6 is concerned, that's a big milestone because you expect us to have all our internal adaptation ready for end of June. But knowing also that user testing will not start before December 2021 or even Q1 2022. So it's a bit early, but it's still a good way to organize our project, to have these milestones in mind, so that we can deliver this message to all the teams that are working on this project. And for IAD6, what we made is that we make sure that we are ready for core systems. So when we say core systems, is all where we have payments clearing. This is very important for us. We have a lot of payments going through TARGET2, and we need to make sure, TARGET2 and Euro 1, by the way, we need to make sure that our core systems are ready, and this is what we target for end of June. Now we also have other systems that could exchange with TARGET2, especially for investigation, for reconciliation, for archiving. And we know that for those systems that are not so critical compared to payments clearing, so payment engine, here we might delay a bit our readiness compared to end of June, but that's not critical for us. And again, for connectivity testing, we will be ready starting from September to check our connectivity. We don't hear you, Maria.
Maite, we don't hear you. Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry, thank you. Thank you, Edward. I particularly take note of the certification part that can indeed help to have one single way to prove the connectivity for all central banks. I think it's something that is worth investigating on how it can be done. But thank you very much for your answer. It's true that the ID6 is coming now, but we also expect that after that you need to perform some testing indeed until December. So it's true, it's a long journey, but also a lot of activities to be done in between. That's why we were quite, I would say we were more conservative probably in this milestone, but it is true that the connectivity testing cannot be also underestimated. It's really one of the most will not say difficult, but yes, tricky in details part of the testing. Let me go and ask Olga for a question that is slightly different because you as a central bank and especially for the Latvian market that it's composed by few big market players and a lot of smaller private banks. What is then, first of all, how do you assess overall the readiness of the Latvian market, but also what is your main challenge to support this community that has diverse profiles for participants?
Yes, first of all, thank you for having me here. So as for our market, there are 20 participants in TARGET2 Latvia. 15 of them are credit institutions, and 1/3 of these 15 are being part of banking groups, different banking groups working in the Baltics and Scandinavia. But actually, all of participants can be considered as small from a system perspective. And this is a distinctive feature for our community, and we also keep it in mind when assessing the readiness. For instance, these can explain, for example, why internal project plans created by our participants for the consolidation project usually deviate from the common project plan, which is basically made based on the needs and processes in place in big institutions. So as for the challenges, our first challenge as a central bank was to understand how the project will be managed by all of participants. So if a participant is part of banking group, then who is the leader of this banking group? If the leader is in our component system, that we are awaiting a higher demand on our support. Another aspect that we assessed also was whether software development will be internal or outsourced. And if outsourced, then who is the partner? For example, several participants in our community cooperate with the same company. So potentially we can expect same questions, same risks. Yes, and the second challenge is communication. Of course, we have regular seminars on actual topics for our community, but it's like a monologue, you know. Participants are usually shy to ask questions and there is quite no feedback during these sessions. So we took our privilege being a central bank of a small community, and we started to organize bilateral sessions to speak to each of our participants, to ask suggestive questions, to define their readiness, not the one maybe written in the report. Our impression is the readiness is progressing. So we are quite green and we are on track, but I'm quite sure that we will understand the real readiness when the testing comes.
Yes, yes. We are all really looking forward to the start of the testing, indeed. So we have a question to the audience. Eileen, I don't know how the participants can participate. Maybe you can.
Yes, so we should be able to run a poll question with you. So on your right-hand side now, you are seeing the poll questions for the ones who are in the WebEx. So basically all you need to do is click your answer. The ones who are not in the WebEx, you can follow us on Twitter, and there you can also answer the question there. So go ahead.
Yes.
20 seconds left.
So let's hope it has improved since March.
Yes.
Okay.
So Elmo, can you show us the results, please? So the poll has ended. So I guess there is somebody in the engine counting.
I hope we can see.
Yeah, see the results.
Results are coming in 5 seconds.
Okay, excellent. So let's see. Here we are.
Okay, we have a lot of no answers. A lot of no answers. We should have given probably more time.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the case that they are not sure what is their status, but nevertheless, we see also a big majority of participants on track or just slightly behind schedule. The percentage of worried, it's also in line with our reporting as well. Yeah, thank you very much, Eileen. Thank you very much. I would like to come back to our panelists, Stephanie and Edward. You have already described how your organization has approached the project, but what would you flag as the main impact in your organization and how you are preparing for it?
I can start if you wish, Maria. Well, the difficulty of this project is that we have impacts a bit everywhere. You know, for instance, if we look at the connectivity part, so pure messaging, we have something called SMIG that is coming, and SMIG is not only T2, T2S consolidation, it's before it's TIPS. Then it's the T2S, then TARGET2, and afterward ECMS. And our messaging hub team would like us to manage all the project with having one single SPOC, so one single point of contact for all SMIC topic, which is not the way we are organized in our bank. So it's a bit difficult, that's a challenge. And so we have impacts on the connectivity testing because something are changing with SMIG. We have impact obviously on the payments value chain, especially when we offer third-party services on the payments, like correspondent banking. And here, this is strongly related and linked to the so-called many-to-many world and the ISO 20022. So you cannot adapt your systems only in front of TARGET2 if you don't adapt your system in front of your clients and counterparties. So both are linked. It's quite a big impact because we have to adapt accordingly with the same strategy for TARGET2 and for many-to-many. And we need to be very agile because I mean it's difficult to have 2 days before a very clear vision on where you want to go with ISO 20022, knowing all the discussions that we have with Swift, with their new platform, so it's a big big development, big changes for us with a lot of money that we spend on it. So you can imagine that on that part, client payments clearing, it's a big impact as well. But we have also impact in for ILM Treasury. I mean, the ones that are managing liquidity, we see that with the split, as mentioned by Stephanie, between central bank operations on a MCA and payments and settlement on a DCR TGS, that's a change. So we need to explain this to all our operational teams. And as I said, we have 16 different entities, so potentially a lot of operational teams that need to understand the new framework. It's not only going from one TARGET2 to another one, it's also changing the way we will manage liquidity. And the difficulty here is to assess what would be the change when you don't see the new system. I mean, that's a challenge. We will normally, we can still define some new process with the UDFS and all the explanation we got from central banks. But at the end, operational team, we want to see exactly how it works to define the procedure. So all this will be is an impact for our processes and will be defined in the course of 2022 during the user testings in order to improve and to see whether how we will adapt processes on a liquidity management side. Again, here also because there is a lot of new features around liquidity management with automations, with savings floors that will come with the new platform. But as long as you don't see them and how it works, it's very difficult to project to a new way of managing liquidity. Mm-hmm. So also an impact on ILM Treasury. So you see, these projects is shaking a bit our institutions in a lot of area, not limited to TARGET2 in a strict sense, but connectivity, messaging hub, ILM Treasury, payment engine.
Yeah, indeed, a lot of aspects. Thank you very much, Edward. Stephanie, you would like to complement, answer on your side?
Yes, as I've already stated in my first answer, I think there are quite a few impacts that the consolidation project has. And I don't want to pick the omnipresent change to the ISO 20022 standard, but rather elaborate on the new account structure and the different relationships that all of our accounts and the target services have with each other. I think Edward mentioned it already with BNP Paribas. And we all know that certain ISO messages will work with all accounts and some will not. For example, a bank cannot send a PAX 009 message to an MCA account, to the main cash account. For some liquidity transfers, you will need up a liquidity transfer group or your liquidity transfer will be rejected. Some messages will be sent to you automatically, and some messages need a message subscription that you have to do in the CRDM, the Common Reference Data Management. Some liquidity transfer orders are done via CAMP 50, the liquidity credit transfer. And then there are some that are done by sending a PAX 009 with code word SBTE. That's for some technical accounts concerning some ancillary system procedures. And I mean, I could go on with this list for some time, but I think, you know, you get the point. There is really a lot to consider when it comes to setting up the new account structure.
Mm-hmm.
And now imagine that you will have to open all the different kind of target accounts with almost half of the Eurosystem central banks. This adds another layer of complexity, as you will need to set up not only more accounts, but also more parties and parent bigs. Central banks are the parents. So how did we prepare to make the new account structure or the future account structure more visible and the relationship the accounts have with each other? We have created a huge wallpaper which displays all the new accounts we will have in all the target systems, the type of accounts, whether they are CLM, RTGS, DCAs, RTGS sub-accounts, TIPS, T2S, ECMS. We've listed all the party bigs, the responsible central banks, multi-addressee participants, which we will have, the relationship between the target accounts, and the relationship that the target accounts will have with other central bank accounts. For example, ASTI in Austria, and so on and so on. I mean, I wish I could have shown you that wallpaper. It's really great. It gives a really great overview. And this one is further enriched by Excel sheets, which list all the necessary message subscriptions, the message routing to the connected A2A applications, the new internal account numbers, needed liquidity groups, etc. And all of this work, which we have already done, will not only help tremendously when it comes to filling out all of the central bank forms, but also in setting up the common reference data in the CRDM. The necessary internal routing you have to set up in your own systems, the new internal booking, etc., etc. So I can highly recommend doing this prep work in advance.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you very much, Stephanie. This is also our recommendation to start as earlier as possible with all this data configuration. Indeed, Olga, on the Latvian market community side, you mentioned that you were really expecting the testing and migration phases. What are the main challenges for these phases for you?
Yes, we are approaching the most interesting steps, I believe, because testing and migration will reveal whether enough of efforts have been undertaken by all of us, I mean, Eurosystem, NSPs, and participants during the preparation phase, and whether the picture in respect to the way we imagine the system will work corresponds to the reality. So the first check we will have is the connectivity testing, of course. All of the participants had to reassess their current infrastructure while choosing the best solution they want to use to reach SMIC. And most of our participants, for example, they decided to choose to take this chance and to implement changes to the existing infrastructure they have. During connectivity testing, all of us will see how it works, actually. Yes, and the challenge that was stressed also by another panelists and also by all of our participants from the very beginning is a resource issue. In small banks, projects are usually managed by operational people, and they do not have enough expertise and time for reading and analyzing documentation on hundreds of pages. So and also, of course, there are a lot of projects in parallel, running in parallel, and all of them are mandatory, and institutions have to manage them on time. So they will manage, I believe, but this is a challenge.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you, Olga. I would like to ask you, all of you, if you would like to elaborate on a wish list, what would be on it in order to support you for the preparation for the go live? What will you add to this wish list? I don't know who would like to start.
I can start. I have a short answer. If a Santa Claus allows me, I would like to have two wishes. The first one, that the system is ready. The system is ready for testing, for migration, for go live. And another one, that all of us have super support, qualitative and high-speed support. And I believe that it will be enough. Of course, provided that participants do their homework for a successful go live.
Yes, indeed. The two basic things I would say that they cannot be taken for granted because they require a lot of effort as well, and we are also preparing for that. Thank you, Olga. Any views, Stephanie, Eduard?
Yes, I actually do have a wish. But before I express that wish, I would like to say something regarding my unspoken wishes, which have already been fulfilled. I think the T2 T2S consolidation website, the one for professional use, is a really, really good source for information when it comes to everything you need to know around the consolidation. And the central bank's training sessions, which I have attended so far, they all provided very useful information, especially when it came to local flavors. So I would like to take that opportunity here and say thank you to the ECB and the central banks for that. And this is all very helpful. So now I come back to my wish. It would be great if we could have an ancillary system testing phase. If that could be added to the user testing calendar, and all the ancillary systems would participate. For us as a bank, this would make testing everything around the ancillary systems, as well as testing the necessary internal reconciliation of the incoming ancillary system debit credit notifications a lot easier, since we would know when the messages will come in and would have them all together in a few weeks and don't really have to look for one in the system or ask an ancillary system to send us. So an especially dedicated ancillary system testing phase where all the ancillary systems would participate, that would be my wish, and I think that would be really helpful for testing.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Giampiero also reminded us that there are locally by each central bank information sessions. So I think we keep an updated list on our webpage, but it's really quite useful that you can also contact your NCBs and participate in the info sessions that they organize. Thank you very much. Eduard, anything to add to the quiz list?
Well, first of all, I fully share the point of view of Stephanie on ancillary systems, especially for again, institutions like BNP Paribas, but we are not the only one, but having a centralized settlement of ancillary systems in one place, meaning that when we discuss with our local central banks, they told us, yes, we will organize testing with all ancillary systems based in France, but we want that based in all countries, because it's not only in France. We have linked with ancillary systems that are outside France, but that are using TARGET2 accounts that will be open in the book of Banque de France, for instance, because we are based in France. So I fully share Stephanie's wish to have something organized across NCBs, and that's also where I would like to go. Is the wish would be to have a well synchronization between NCBs. to make sure that it will fuel the sharing of static data for some groups that are part of multiple NCBs. I already gave you another wish, which is on the connectivity testing. Having only one certification, if possible.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
Yeah, and at the end, I think yes, we need the support of NCBs for presentation and workshop, but I think most of them are doing it very well, and it will accelerate. So we hope it will accelerate also on the presentation side, to help us understanding or confirm that our understanding are on the right direction, because you can read the same thing but understanding it differently. So even if you read the UDFS, you read everything, you might understand the different ways. So we need practical examples, and I think NCBs made some efforts on this, so it was well appreciated. The last one, but I think somehow, thanks to the 1 year postponement, we have maybe more times for testing. And again, it's key for us, because without seeing the systems, playing with it, it's always difficult to define everything. And we know that sometimes we developed or adapt our system, our internal systems, according to our understanding, but we'll have to maybe to fix some bugs. So we need times for testing, and I think what we have so far should be enough.
Thank you very much, Edward. Let's take the opportunity and ask the audience if they have also specific areas on which they would like to see something different or more support. We have classified them between testing, more focus on thinking about user testing, or a second group more related to migration or migration preparation, more info sessions, more training. And then the third one, if we require additional explanations for how the systems should connect, or you consider that everything is more or less already there. As Stephanie mentioned, thank you. There is a lot of resources in our webpage. But if you consider that we are missing something, it's also a good opportunity. So let's see. I hope that now we have a higher response rate for this question. I hope that you were able to find where to answer.
Yeah, we just closed it. So let's see what the results will be. There's counting going on in the back end. Let's hope Almudena is not doing it manually. Here we are. Okay. Oh, it's the same. Yeah.
Not so many answers, but indeed testing, more focus on testing. That is the next step than on migration itself. So it's good to know. Thank you, Elena and Anu, for compiling all the answers, and thank you for the answers as well. So we would like to finish with one last question. I will ask you to be very brief, because I think we are consuming the time for the audience questions. So what do you consider then the main key success factor to stay on track for the big bang migration? Because if I remind everyone, those who will not be ready, there are no waves, there's a big bang migration, and the access to monetary policy, it's dependent on your ability to join the new target system. So what will be the key success factor in 1 minute?
Maybe I can start. Short one, staying motivated, even if we have a lot on our plate. And always remember, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Edward, Olga?
Well, I would say a good, very good close cooperation between central banks and participants, and even between participants. Sometimes we face technical issues or tricks to find a way to connect. We need to share experiences. This will ease the way of everybody.
Thank you, Olga.
Yes, cooperation also definitely is in my list. Cooperation with the central bank and with each other between the participants. We already saw very good experience during the reassessment of the infrastructure when our participants exchanged frequently asked questions, and their findings. Another success factor would be asking questions, because for us as a central bank, it is helping to follow up, to raise maybe some issues that are relevant for the whole community. And the third factor would be training. This is something we as a central bank also have to work on to help and support our participants for the testing and migration. But let's keep in mind also that self-training is a very important issue. So you have to play with the system, be creative, try different scenarios, then you will understand how it works. So be creative and you will succeed.
Thank you very much, Olga. Thank you very much to the three of you for these last words. I think that they were quite relevant. So, Eileen, do we have questions from the audience that we will have time to answer quickly?
You're lucky on questions. We have a few comments in the chat for you more than questions, so people are being happy about your presentation. So thumbs up. We have a few people then making suggestions about what Stephanie referred to with the professional use documents, with maybe some tracking on the different versions to make it easier to find. We have some people, yes, wishing for this, and then we have others that exactly flag what Olga was saying, that we should be careful with also the small participants and watch out for those. So that's maybe also a throwback to all the NCBs connected, that, make sure you help the smaller ones as well. So overall, more thumbs up coming in than particular questions. So
okay, that helps us to be on time for the last speaker then. Thank you very much. Thank you for to our panelists. Thank you for having participated today. I think that the tips and the information you provide, I hope that as the chat shows, has been really useful for the other participants and the audience in general. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Maite, so I'll just hold you on a second before we move on to the last part of the session. We have a few questions about the, I think the presentation before on the IAD6. There's a question on the timing for this one. If it's in June or in March, so there's confusion on the timing, but we can maybe...
Yes. Probably it's because one milestone is for the participants and the other one is for the central banks, indeed. For the participants, the date is end of June, and for central banks was end of March. This is because central banks start testing earlier than participants, and that's why there is a 3 months difference between for the same milestone, but for the two communities, let's say for central banks and participants.
Perfect, thank you for this. And on this question, there's also an additional one asking about if this milestone also includes being ready to send and receive ISO 20022 messages.
This is software development. So the software, in order to send and receive messages, should be ready. Yes, this is this milestone includes the whole scope of the developments.
Thank you. So I can let you go, Maite. Thank you very much to you and to all the panel members. So we are at the last part of our session, but we want to pick up on a few questions. So I'm hoping Sylvain is still with us, because we have a few questions coming in on the guideline. So we're going back to the first point we had at the beginning of the morning on the target guideline. So Sylvain, are you with me?
I'm with you.
Excellent. Good. So I'm gonna, super. I'm going to throw you the question then, because otherwise I will need to answer it, and it's better that you do it. So the question is there further opportunities for the market to comment on the guideline?
No, that was a one-off that we had in May this year. It's anyway quite exceptional that we go to the guideline and ask even informally to their views on the guideline. So it's not something that we organize. We do it exceptionally because it's a brand new guideline and it's important for the market. But next time they see the guideline, that will be the final one. So when it's published, beginning of next year.
Super, thanks for that. And then one more on the guideline before you go. So it's about the scope of the guideline. What's the compared to the other documents already published? So what is the scope of the guideline document compared to other documents already published and the one being published in the future?
Yeah, so the scope is the same as today. So that means we are covering all the euro-denominated cash accounts. So we have the MCA, I mean, saying what we will have tomorrow, but we have the MCA, TGS DCA, T2S DCA, TIPS DCA, all the accounts of ancillary system, all the accounts of the ACHs on TIPS. So it's the broad scope of all target accounts, target cash accounts in euro. That's the scope.
Super, thank you so much. So I will let you go and then I will bring in Dimitri. Are you here with us, Dimitri?
Yes, I'm still with you. Maybe a few seconds to activate the camera, but
yeah, you're
okay.
coming. Yeah, I'm seeing you. Very good, thank you. So before I let you close, we also have a few questions coming in. Maybe you want to answer those.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm scrolling here. There's a lot of questions coming in, people, so bear with us. So here on the Econs 2, when will it go live on the SMIC? And then it's about any timeline, plan, roadmap, technical setup. So basically, what's the plan on the SMIC 2? Can you say something about this?
Well,
Econs 2, sorry.
Yeah, indeed. Econs 2 goes live together with the rest, basically. It goes live in November 2022. In terms of testing, I understand that the sub-question is about testing. The testing is actually embedded in the operational test. So it's supposed it will take place between, if I'm not wrong, July and September next year. But I'm conscious that there is probably a gap in terms of information. So this is something we probably need to further detail as we progress to give some more details on this, indeed. Yeah.
Super. And then one last question before you're free to speak as you wish. There was a question, I think, earlier on about what if somebody is not ready? So with the Big Bang migration, we had a question on what happens if somebody isn't ready. Do you want to say something on that?
Well, I believe, Eileen, there is a part of the answer is already in the question. I mean, when we refer to Big Bang, it means that the contingency measures are quite limited. There is no side track to still access T2 when TARGET2 becomes T2. There is no side track. So in principle, a participant that would not be ready would no longer have access to the new T2 platform. So that's, again, that's part of the Big Bang. We've been discussing for long why a Big Bang and that there is no real alternative to it. Before going on this, what people should be aware of is that we do whatever is possible for that not to happen. Of course, that the participant will not be ready. We organize the delivery as early as possible of all specifications. We organize, like Maite mentioned, we organize a very close monitoring to make sure that that the organizations are preparing at the right pace, and we also provide quite an extended testing period. So even we did not come back to the rescheduling of the plan of the program earlier, but we have even extended duration of testing. It has moved from 9 to 11 months in total. So these are all mechanisms to, I would say, reduce the likelihood of that happening. Now, in terms of impact, if ever, I would say worst come to worst, a participant would not be ready. The only, well, what we have in place is what we call a fix forward strategy. So the participants will need to organize that they fix their issues, and in between, of course, the national central banks would be ready to give a hand by means, for instance, of introducing contingency payments themselves. But we know that this is not necessarily the most easy process to operate, but that would at least be available. Indeed.
Thank you very much. So we will just let you close today's session, Dimitri.
So now I'm free to speak.
Yes, now you can. I will ask you no more questions.
No, just maybe a few takeaways from the discussion today. Well, first, we should no longer say that the consolidation is coming. It's not coming, it's there. That was also one of my introductory statements. You know now, and you were reminded that connectivity testing will start in September, so just after summer. We have heard from Isabel and Andrea from Swift and from SIA-Colt that their teams are basically combat ready to help you in the mission of getting connected to the new platform, and that's good news. We have heard from Jean-Pierre some very practical information on how the work would be organized in the coming month. Jean-Pierre mentioned the registration process, the testing milestones, the mandatory test cases, and plenty of other very practical information. And once more, thank you for that, Jean-Pierre. We heard from Maite and from the panelists, so from Stephanie, Olga, and Edouard, that a lot of work was done already, that so far the level of preparedness is good. I also took from the discussion that we should not dream of the coming month not bringing any challenge. I believe there will be challenges, but what matters here is that we stay focused and that there is an organization in place to help you out, basically. I took that you are not alone. Again, the network service provider will do whatever it takes to help you establishing the connectivity. And I also understood that from the National Central Bank perspective, they will also be there to give a hand where needed. So, it would be wrong not to mention the introduction of Marco also on the framework under the concession contract. I believe it triggers, our experience is that it triggers a lot of questions, and I hope that this was useful. And also the intervention at the beginning from Sylvain on the target guidelines, we see the interest through the questions that were raised in the end. Thank you to Marco and Sylvain as well. I'm mindful that we may not have answered all questions raised in the chat and also probably by mail. Be aware that the national central banks are still there to answer all questions, and there will be other events of this kind. So as a final conclusion, thanks to all contributors. Also thanks to the people attending and the questions raised. And thanks to you, Eileen, and the whole team behind you to support. The organization was just perfect. I hope that this info session, or this focus session, sorry, was useful and informative for everyone. Again, there will be additional events of this nature, but before that, I wish you more or less time for a good lunch, a good day, and a good preparation for the migration to T2, T2S consolidation. And maybe above all, take care of yourself and your families. That's what matters most. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Dimitri, and thank you to everybody. So as mentioned before, the whole event will be recorded and will be uploaded on the website, so you can watch it there together with all the presentation that will be uploaded after. So thank you for today.